Jingle bells, Batman smells. Robin laid an egg.
Yeah.
You know that version?
Yeah, I love it.
It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Today it is. My wife's birthday today.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Her birthday's Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Not even lying.
Why don't I know that information? I feel like I should know
Probably
that.
because you don't really care.
Yeah. I know Charlie's
You know?
birthday.
Yeah.
1 month exactly after my birthday. Isn't that cool? Charlie's here, guys. Yeah. He's wearing a monochromatic outfit today.
Gray on gray
Gray
on gray.
You know what's funnier when people wear monochromatic but it doesn't match? Like it's not the same
Yeah, it's
gray.
not the same gray,
same
not the same
black.
red.
Stupid. You look
Yeah.
stupid, man.
Yeah.
I find that with if I wear black pants with my track jacket,
Doesn't work.
look stupid.
Wrong black.
Yeah.
Weird that it's the wrong black, huh?
Wait, what'd you say?
It's weird that it could be the wrong
Yeah.
black. Like,
You think black is black.
Yeah. It's
not.
not.
Do you have any stupid things to say before I start or no?
I got lots of stupid stuff, but no.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you enjoying your Christmas break so
First day last night, I'm done.
far? Are you already done?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Last night we had our first get together. I'm done now. I'm done.
It's already over?
No, we got three more.
No, I
more.
mean in your head, like you're
Yeah, I was
checked out.
done
Yeah.
2 hours in last night. I said, okay,
Really?
I'm going to go do some dishes, get away from
It's
people.
just too much conversation.
Too much.
Yeah. I get it. Do you like the Christmas break, Charlie, or
Charlie
no?
loves it.
You like hanging out with your family and stuff? Yeah, I'm like that too. Yeah. That's all right. We had our tournament here yesterday, which was actually really good. I'm going to start off today by complaining. So the day's like winding down. The day went well. We'll start with that. The day's winding down, and I'm trying to like help clean up. And so the arena staff, they're running around like crazy all day. Like, yeah. So I go into one of the dressing rooms, like where a couple of the guys are. Dude, it looked like a bomb went off in this dressing room. Like the amount of like just tape and garbage and bottles and food and whatever, bags of shit. It was crazy. Like I could not believe, and maybe that was like the most extreme example, but it was crazy how much shit was in this dressing room that was just left over. Room's empty and there's just shit everywhere. And I'm thinking,
You're talking garbage, basically.
yeah, garbage. Like someone has to pick this up, right? Someone has to pick this up. So I'm thinking, these two guys that work for the rink, which they're great guys, they're helping us all day, like whatever. So I go and I'm helping them clean up all this garbage. And I'm just thinking, it's kids that are in the tournament, right? So they're 15 and under. We had from 10-year-olds to 15-year-olds here yesterday. And I'm like, okay, like to a degree, because they're kids, they're going to leave garbage and not think about it, whatever. But like, what about the adults? Like,
What about them?
all of them had like team leaders or team coaches or parents around that went in the rooms. And like, I cannot believe that grown-ups would ever walk out of a room that looks like that. Whether it's your garbage or not, I couldn't believe it. So there's parents everywhere in all the rooms. And I walked out, I'm like, so at least 3 or 4 different sets of adults came through this room and saw it the way it was and didn't clean it up, didn't put stuff in the garbage, didn't just contributed to it. And it was crazy to see it. So that's one. 2, we had an incident that I didn't talk about it yet, which is funny. But one of the kids that goes to the academy was on one of the teams, and his dad was here, whatever, and they're playing a game. And the coach on the team that they were playing against, I guess, was just like losing his shit. And they'd be grade 8 age, I think 2011s, and the ref, who, like, guys, Christmas 3-on-3 tournament for fun, the ref had to kick the dad out. So he goes to kick the dad out, who is like the coach of the team.
This is on the other team?
Yeah, on the other team. Yeah, not on our guys' team, on the team they're playing against. And the ref has to kick him out. And the ref is 17 or whatever, right? Has to kick him out. The guy won't leave. So they go back and forth for a minute, I guess. I didn't even get to see it, unfortunately, so I'm telling a third-hand story, so maybe it's not perfect, but he goes, fine. If I'm leaving, we're all leaving.
No, he didn't do this.
Whole team left. 6 minutes left in the game. They walked off.
So what? I'm curious now. What was the issue?
Like the refs not calling the penalty. We're not getting calls. This is bullshit. Like whatever. It's from the sounds of it, because I went and talked to some of the parents after. I didn't actually see the guy that did it. I don't even know who it was. But I was talking to some of the parents after, and they were like, it was the most non-chippy game. Like maybe you could make an argument that there was one play here, like in the corner, that they could have called a penalty or whatever.
It's cross ice 3-on-3.
It was nothing, I guess, is what I'm told. Okay. So now one of my guys that was helping us that also goes to the academy that's older, he was just like being the guy that pushes pads around, whatever. So the parent that's going crazy calls our guy over, who's also 17, to, I don't even know, say whatever. And my guy just said to him, like, dude, like it's like PowerTech 3-on-3 Christmas tournament. Like it's supposed to be fun, man. Like, right? And so the guy ends up leaving, taking his team with whatever 6 minutes left in the game off the ice.
Nice.
And so I'm just like,
How old
yeah,
was that team roughly?
they would have been 2011, like grade eights. Yeah. Right. So between that and the dressing rooms, my first thing was just like, or even like the staff, one of the staff guys said to me, like the parents are just like, they're just not they're not very friendly. So like some of them are standing around where the Zamboni is. And he's like, we have gates up so that they're not supposed to come back here.
That doesn't mean anything to people.
Right.
It's like, I can go though.
Yeah. And they'll jump over the gate or whatever. And he's like, dude, there's ice everywhere. Like there's tripping hazards. Like, are you guys wearing your grippy rubber boots? No. So it's like, you're not supposed to be back here. And so like, it's just the parent stuff, man. Again, like I'm walking out. I could not believe this dressing room, man. The garbage in this dressing room. It was crazy. And I think the older groups are actually better usually. So we had most of the older kids here. At the other rink, I didn't hear any like stories of anybody losing their mind or anything over there yet. But like, I guess my moral of my story, one thing I do with my guys, whenever we're on the road, I always make them send me a photo of the room when we leave. They have to. So it's in our team group chat. Like someone has to send me, I don't care who it is, just when we leave, somebody has to send me a picture of the room. So like it better look the same. And I don't care if it's not our garbage. Just put the garbage in the garbage, man. So that people don't think you're an idiot or like get yourself a bad reputation for making a mess or whatever. But I wish I should have taken a photo of it when I was there to show you. But for parents, whatever, coaches, just like think about that kind of stuff, I guess is my point. Just think about it. Cause like you don't realize it's just somebody else's issue now. Like you throw shit on the ground or make a mess or piss all over the floor or whatever it is. Like somebody has to actually clean that, man. You know?
Yeah,
so that's my opening complaint.
That's I mean, you're not saying anything that's not different anywhere else, obviously, but that's the part that, when you play the game, it's a life lesson, right? Like this is what we talk about with hockey. It's not about, at the end of the day, it's hockey's hockey, right? Hockey's hockey, but it's like everything that, if you're not aware, if you're walking around and you're just as a parent or as a coach and your only concern is about the hockey, then you're missing the point, right? You're missing the point. There's so many little lessons in there that you can teach your kids to be just not even great people, just like normal. Be better than it doesn't take much to raise the bar in life, right? Like even you just look at other things, take the dressing room aside and all that kind of stuff. Just a kid that walks in and says, "Hi, coach, how are you today?" sincerely is not as common as you would think. A kid that picks up a puck or is not willing or is willing to walk into the dressing room and actually give a rip about what's going on, or a kid that cares about someone else other than themselves. Like it's not as common as you think. So to stand out, it doesn't take a whole lot, and it's but hey, dude, man, it is what it is. And then as far as the parent, it's like, oh man. I went to I don't know if I said this last podcast, but I had dinner at my brother-in-law's house last Sunday, and his son was playing hockey at 8:30 at night on Sunday.
Oh yeah,
did I say this?
Yeah.
Was it on the podcast?
I don't remember.
Well, we'll go over it again. So, anyways, Maddie isn't a hockey player. He plays hockey. Plays. I think it's house league. It's 16 to 18 or something like that. And so we're like, yeah, we're gonna come to your game. He goes, no. Yeah, we're gonna come and watch. Like, dude. And he came out there. So he went out there, and it's house league. So house league is house league. What I loved about it, I'm being honest here. What I loved about it is like I asked him yesterday when I saw him. I go, why do you back check so hard? He goes, well, I got to get my cardio in somehow. I said, okay, but is it like just built in that you work hard? He goes, he doesn't know, but he plays really, really hard. There's not a pass in the game. No one passes, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's they're playing at. What I loved about it was there was there basically I'm assuming not one of them had a thought of playing at a higher level. It seems, but it was like terrible hockey, but they loved hockey, and it showed. And no one was mad if they didn't get passes. They don't get passes, but they worked hard. And most of the parents were there just to watch their kids, and it was like joyous. Except for, of course, there's one. It's one. There's one, right? And whatever, it's fine. Maybe he was just having fun with it, but he had the foghorn for when they scored, and he had a little bit glass banging and stuff, which is okay, whatever. But it was refreshing to see kids play hockey just because they want to play hockey. Like they want to play hockey for fun. Whereas you get like just because you get a letter like an A or a double A or whatever, the quality of the hockey is not. It's better. Like don't get me wrong, it's better, but it's not. I don't think it's worth losing your shit about, right? But then, like you said, the 3-on-3 every year we have something like it's like to put it in perspective. It's 3-on-3 1 day event. Yes, you want to win, of course, but it's legit for fun. Like I remember when Charlie and his buddies used to play. Some people would try to stack teams, and he would like who went. One of his forwards won a net 1 year, and they did really well, right? Like, but we weren't sitting here going, they gotta win. Like. It's weird that people can't separate. Um, like, just let the kids have fun. Let them have fun.
I just
Parents
can't.
ruin it, man.
I know. I can't imagine caring that much about that. Like where like it ruined my day. Like I'm leaving.
I know. Yeah.
I'm leaving early because
Yeah.
of how pissed off I am about this. You know, it's bizarre. On a separate note, I drove a U-Haul again yesterday,
Oh, nice. Why?
so that was kind of fun. I had to bring those pads from Tecumseh here.
Well, you had to borrow them.
Yeah, dude, and then driving back in the freezing rain in the U-Haul, that was tricky. I had to focus big time driving. So anyways, but it was good. Merry Christmas, ho ho ho, and all that shit. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the PowerTech online membership program. If you've been listening to Andy and I wondering, hey, how are they able to get all this podcast content out there? Well, that's because of our members. For just $9.99 a month, you can get access to our online video library, including hundreds of videos of Coach Andy teaching, and have the option for consultation calls with Andy or myself to go over anything you need. We can cover training, nutrition, coaching, parenting, agents, the junior college hockey path, whatever's of interest to you. You'll also be able to participate in our popular Ask Me Anything episodes, have access to special discount codes, and be given priority for any PowerTech in-person camps or events. If you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Visit powertechhockey.ca/memberships or find the link in the description of this video to learn more. So I've had 3 different instances over the last week where I've either thought about the concept of like being confident playing or someone has asked me about it or brought it to my attention. So one was watching you. Second was Dan Crosby asked me about his kid yesterday because he's like, dude, when he plays 3-on-3, he's a totally different player. He's way better playing 3-on-3 than in an actual game. And then the third was somebody wrote in asking about like as a winger, which it's hard to say as a particular position how to build confidence. I don't really think it matters as a winger specifically, but just generally. So it's come up 3 times. So first, I'm just gonna ask you because you're here, because we watched the game on Thursday, and you and I have been talking a lot about him playing in particular, and like the amount of confidence that I see him playing with, I haven't seen it to the level it's at now until now. I haven't seen it before, and I want you to actually answer my question. Is what is it for you? Do you feel like this year that are like the factors of why you feel more confident playing, or do you feel like the same, or do you feel more confident? Is it so? Would you say it's just your coach, or is it what about like I'm older now, like I'm more experienced? I feel like if you had a different coach, do you think you would still be able to do what you are doing, or do you feel like the coach piece is? Because I thought you were going to say something about the coach. So then for you, because my first question was going to be about the coach specifically, because then I was talking to Dan about it too with his kid playing 3-on-3. And like, why is the kid way better playing 3-on-3 than in a game? So what for you? What's the role of the coach in terms of confidence, giving confidence to a player or their role in helping a player to have confidence? Because this is like one of the most common questions ever. And then I was contrasting that watching him on Thursday with Dan asking me that question for his 10-year-old. Like he's on the ice, like dude playing 3-on-3, he's like a totally different player. He does stuff he would never do in a game. So like, what's the role of the coach for you from like a confidence building perspective? And you can go by level or whatever if that's helpful.
No, but okay. So if you play 3-on-3, let's say like the cross ice 3-on-3 or any version of it, it's not the same as a 5-on-5 real hockey game, full ice with structure, right? It's not the same. So you can probably stick handle more, and that might be what Dan is saying about he looks a lot more confident, is that he probably handles the puck more and tries things, and it's just in an environment where you can do that, right? So wouldn't say that Jax is a better player 3-on-3 or not. It's just the environment. And then you're not worried about making mistakes because what are the rules? What is the structure of a cross ice 3-on-3? It's not real. It's not a real game, so you can just go and play. So that kind of answers the question in itself. If you want, it's kind of like if you just go play freely, then you do what you feel like you want to do. And that might be handle the puck, and no one's yelling at you for handling the puck or shooting more or blocking shots, whatever it is. You're just around it more, right? So that would be that. Whereas you get into a 5-on-5 situation where you're coached, and maybe it could just be the structure itself. It doesn't lend, or too much information, especially for young guys, could maybe kind of hamstring them. You know what I mean? And then that's just like my initial what that would be. But confidence is a interesting thing. There's more than just like one or two things that plays into confidence, especially when you go to higher levels, right? So you could go to a high level, like it's like what's really interesting to watch is you take a kid that just came to the Guelph Storm, um, Katzen, and he looks the way he plays like he's like a duck on water. It just, and I could be totally wrong, but he plays well, and he just stepped into an environment that here I am, I'm going to dominate, or I'm going to be really good. And he just plays his game, and it's like doesn't nothing seems to fizz him. Where you see other guys play, and it's like, okay, I got to have a big game, and little things hit them. So
There's like a personal mindset element to it. Is
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
what you're
he's just
saying?
maybe just a confident person that I'm good. I'm gonna be good, and I deserve to be here, and I'm gonna be great. Whereas, and that could be different, right? Like if you look at like the way I raised my son is like you teach him to be confident, but you also teach him to have humbleness, or you teach him to have respect and different things like that. And maybe that is not a good thing because you're teaching him to, you're teaching your kids to be, maybe there is a hierarchy. Maybe you're accidentally putting limits and ceilings on what they could achieve at the beginning, or you plant things in their head, right? As a parent, like you can do that. So you can have them overthink, right? If you lay out scenarios for them, you could overthink, and as soon as you start overthinking, a lot of the times, then you become um, that's where your confidence maybe, I don't want to say confidence get lost, but you just overthink. But there's things like when you get to junior, when you like I mean, it's not really rocket science, but again, people could tell you, oh, it's a really big step. It's this, it's that, and then you start thinking about it. Could be the coach intimidates you the first day one because of the structure, and you see him snap or be very demanding. You're like, okay, I don't want to get in shit. I need respect for people. It could be the players, like being a 15, 16, 17-year-old going to play against 20-year-olds. Maybe you're just a little nervous and you don't want to make mistakes. Could be a guy on your team that said, hey, don't do like whatever, move it, dump it, whatever it is the direction is, and you start questioning yourself, right? Like, so there's a whole bunch of things that can trigger it, and then all it takes is one thing to make you start squeezing your stick or overthinking. And when you overthink, you can't be a good hockey player.
Okay, so multiple threads. First thing on the mindset, I actually vividly remember your point about guys that seem to not care and how that actually is kind of better sometimes. I remember thinking that too because I was like an analyzer guy. Like I would go home and I would think about every detail and whatever to the point of overthinking. Like that was something I was more prone to. Charlie, how do you find in the game? Are you an overthink? Do you analyze stuff or do you kind of just like whatever and go with the flow? A little of both. Because I don't know. How were you when you played? Did you like
That
ever
was like
really
3,000 years ago. But how was I an analyzer?
like did you think about it past like surface level? Like I just went and played. Like and that
Played,
was
but
it?
I had my own issues. Like,
But yeah, but
yeah,
just
I
the
just played.
yeah, cuz
I
I
I
remember
played, and then but you have to remember in the 80s of the OHL in the 80s, it wasn't structured.
true. This is true.
This is what
Yeah.
coaching was back then. Work harder, be tougher. No, I'm being
Thanks for the
honest.
help, coach.
Be yeah, be work harder, be tougher. That's all it was. And then with the odd thing, it was totally different. So I can't say it the same way he can, because now it's the structure of it is so different.
But I guess I'm not saying it's good to not think about anything or not analyze it or whatever, like cuz that stuff can be helpful, but there's a line somewhere because some guys never think about anything and they're just really good and they can go out there and they can kind of recreate that environment where there's no rules in a 3-on-3 situation and they play with that feel in a 5-on-5 real game, which can be super helpful because then you just start playing now, right? You're actually just playing and trying stuff um and whatever. So my next question would be with that, like on the environment piece, you're saying like the difference between a 3-on-3 game and a actual game. How much of a as a let's say from the coach perspective again, because obviously like from the player perspective, you would want that feel where you just have freedom to play without any negative consequences coming necessarily. But from the coaching perspective, do you think it's important to should you try to create that environment for your guys where it's like they can feel freedom? Like where's the line on that? Because like
I think your best coaches are going to tell you that you can see that when someone is not overthinking and is free, they play better.
Mhm.
Right? You just play the game.
But how much of that is on the coach? So like,
Oh, I think there's a huge percentage that's on the coach, and a huge percentage, because like there's there's a there's a way a coach is going to communicate you. Even it's so subtle too. It could be you walk in the dressing room and it could be the way they say hi to you that you know that they're dicks. They're yeah. It's like, yeah, how you doing? And they maybe it's the jab, it's the whatever, and you just know that there is no freedom, right? It could be the negativity all the time. Like you've played with that, like just negative, 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 and we got that negativity coming down all the time. And I don't want to get confused with some people saying like anytime someone's coaching that's negative, because it's not. Coaching is coaching, but the negativity can drain you, right? So then all you ever think about is mistakes, right? So you can't play free when you got someone just like, and I've seen it. I've seen it. We've seen a coach where it was so structured that you would see like a D coming up the ice and like legit, there's a play there. Like there's zero pressure. There's zero pressure. That could be a cross seam pass with, and minimum you would get out of that is a 2-on-1. But they would never do it because this is the way we play. It's straight up the ice, it's chip it in, and the forecheck is this, and like there was no veering from that, or else I'm going to snap. And you could just see that in the players. You see how good players kind of just not be limited because the structure is so much.
So I was listening to the Lions game on the radio yesterday. The radio.
Yeah, that's how
97-1.
much you like the Lions now.
97 won the ticket. Yeah, I turned it on in the car. There was a guy, I forget which team it was on. He went offside. So the guy that's announcing the game, whatever, just said, when you're not a starter. This guy wasn't a starter, I guess. He's like, you can't go offside. He's like, you want to build trust with your coach. You can't go offside. And so something like going offside, this guy was probably like some kind of a stud when he played in college or whatever before he got up to the NFL. And he knows how to not go offside. And so maybe in the college environment where he was a dominant player and never had to worry about that, now all of a sudden he's in the NFL and now it's like he's overthinking something as simple as going offside.
So what do you think he's thinking?
This is what I'm saying, right?
But what do you think he's actually thinking on the line?
Well, he's probably freaking out about the fact that he's in and what his coach thinks about what he's doing. That's
yeah,
what
and he's probably with the words coming up says, "Okay, don't go offside."
Yeah,
it's
right?
like, and you do what you tell yourself, right?
And you're talking about a pro, right? That's happening at the pro level where there's that confidence piece, and I think it circles back. Like I guess my question, I'm trying to think in real time. How much credit do you give your coach? Because I feel like people at the end of the day will say like, it doesn't matter. Like, well, I say this, like, it doesn't matter who your coach is. Like, you have to do what you have to do. But on the individual level, personally, the coach, I feel like the coach has an oversized impact on like, so we're just talking to Charlie about it. He was like, I don't know, maybe like 20%. What I would give, like, it's 80% me and 20% the fact that my coach has given me the pat on the ass to make me feel like I'm in a good situation. Like 20% is a lot, you know? So it's like the line for how much the coach actually impacts your ability to play well and how much that line is like, what would you say on it? Like how much?
Okay, so I would say it this way because I can't give you a percentage, but I would say it this way: um, every player knows what their qualities are, right? So this guy was a high pick, another guy's a high pick, another one's a later pick, and they're good for whatever they're good at. They're good at, right? They're pretty good at. So it could be if you're a really good skilled guy, right? So if you're a good skilled guy and you start to play, and you have restrictions on you from a coach, and they're telling you to like think and have all this stuff on you, then all of a sudden that skill gets stifled because of the structure. Okay, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But if the message from the coach is like really honing down on, and this is okay because it's coaching, but you take that skilled guy the first year he plays in the OHL, let's say, or NHL, whatever, they move up to that level, and you've got things that you do really well. Maybe it's just being a good shooter, maybe whatever, right? Or you know how to blow a zone and get breakaways, let's say. Like that's something different, right? And all of a sudden the coach is saying, until you get the puck out of your wall, till you're good in your D zone, till you're this and that and the other thing, like you're not playing, or you get in shit for it or whatever, right? Then your brain is thinking that. Till, but you still have a level of skill because you're still going to go to practice, you're still going to skate hard, you're going to get older, you're going to get better, all these different things. But until that freedom is given to you to play a little bit, and then you're allowed to do what you do to a certain level, like you have to be responsible. So there's a part where you have to learn how to be a hockey player, because that's the difference now. When you get to junior, when you get to pro, you get to college and all those things, you're a hockey player. You're not just playing hockey and whatever happens happens. It's not that important that you get 100 goals that year, because if at the cost of the team or at the cost of your future is different. So you have to learn how to play the game and use your skills within that structure, more or less. Okay, but once you get, I don't think your skill ever goes away. And I don't think your confidence necessarily goes away. It just needs to be sometimes rebuilt or rekindled. How do you like that word?
That's a good word.
Well, it's not bad. So, so, so it comes down to now you let's say your coach, you have a coach that is, maybe it's your first coach ever in junior, or it's your second, third, whatever. All of a sudden they says, no, I like, hey, dude, here's the good qualities about you. This is how I want you to go and play. Right? We need you. We want you to play. Well, there's number one. It might be okay. Is he bullshitting or is it true? Then you realize, oh, I'm playing. And then it's like you're not so worried about it making a mistake. When you've got your bases covered, you know how to play the game now. You know your D zone. You know I can trust you on the ice, and that's important though. But like that's the thing, is it's important that you get that part, or else you can never be a player. So once you have that, you say, okay, now I could carry the puck a little bit, or I could move the puck, or I could take a different chance, or I can drive the net differently, or I could maybe run someone's head through the glass and I don't have to worry about consequences, or maybe I shouldn't anymore, like whatever. Now you're just playing freely. And when you do that, that's the game changer. So the coach, I think it's massive. But I'm not taking apart like the players' base skill, smarts, talent, whatever makes them a great player. It's always there. It's can you use it in a structure, and then does the coach give you a little bit of freedom to play? So now, how does a coach help you with that? It's like I believe that a coach, like some feedback. It doesn't have to be like you're the best player I've ever seen. None of that stuff. But a pat on the back saying good job. That's it. That's exactly what I'm looking for you. Tighten this up, and giving them the confidence, like hey, I like you and I trust you. And the best way that you know that is you get on the ice. And as soon as a guy doesn't get on the ice for a couple shifts, especially younger guys, that's when they start thinking, okay, I got to tighten everything up, and they get tighter.
Okay. So if let's give a scenario. So let's say you got a kid that is what you could say junior, because that's more fun to talk about sometimes. Um, if you got a guy that's, let's say he's a good player, but he has no confidence right now, right? The parents are saying he has no confidence. The kid says he has no confidence. Who makes the first move? Should it come from the player first to try to get confidence back? And if so, in what way? Or should it be the coach that kind of does the thing that you're saying? And I know like every situation is different and it's not black and white and all that shit, but just as a
Are we
general
talking
rule,
junior or younger? Does it matter?
you can do both.
Yeah,
Say
well,
junior or younger.
ideally, what you would like is a coach to be tuned. Like this is the problem, right? Not the problem, but it's the reality. Is a coach should to be a good coach be able to communicate to your teammates, to the players. I mean, should be able to do that. I believe that's a criteria to making your kids better. Is you show them how much you care about them being better, and then they'll show you, okay, he cares about me. I'm gonna reciprocate most likely. But if you don't do that first, you got to remember you're the adult and the kid might not know how to approach you or he might be nervous or whatever. So ideally, I think a coach should do it, right? Ideally, but that's not the real world. A lot of coaches are ego driven, or they just don't even know that what they see or how to approach it. So I mean, ideally the coach, but players have to have the willingness to do a hard thing and ask a coach a hard question and be willing to hear a hard answer. And also be able to listen to a coach that doesn't even know what he's talking about, say, work harder, which is not an answer. But it's the onus is on everybody. And then after that, then you got to dig deeper.
Yeah, I think it's funny how many times our conversations come back to just having a humility as whoever it is, if you're the coach or the player, like having the humility to go to the coach and ask for feedback and be willing to hear it, and then as the coach, like be willing to not think you're just Joe Coach hard ass guy and go talk to whoever the kid is or the player to try to get them sorted out. Because that's such a it's such a common thing that I hear all the time, and people look for answers. And but to your point, the reality is not always that. Um, the other element I want to talk about, like from a confidence perspective too, because we've talked about like when people ask about, how do I get my confidence back and all that. We've talked about, like making sure that you're prepared, like asking questions, making sure you're confident, not cocky. Like these are things that we've talked about before. How to like support kids and all that kind of stuff, handling failure. Like these are the kinds of things we've talked about before. I'm trying to get like a different element on it from the coach side. The other thing I was gonna say on that line is, what about what do you think about how other players on your team can affect your confidence as an individual? So a lot of guys, for example, it's like if I play with this guy, then this and this will happen. Whereas if I play with this guy, then that will happen. And so what do you think of like how other guys on your team or other guys you're playing against affect your confidence as an individual
On your
player?
team, I think you look around your team, and I know that there's a hierarchy. You know that like you just look at a roster and go, okay, this guy's the best, second best, third best, fourth best, top line, second. Like that's obvious, right? So you look at, and if you're playing with what is appears to be mostly third line guys, then you probably think that you're getting screwed. No, you do. You think that there's that now I gotta I'm like something, especially if you're an older guy. And if you're playing with the top guys, then you probably think that you're great or you're getting an opportunity to shine here, right? That's obvious. So, can it affect you? Yeah, but basically, you just got to play your game. Seen that several times where a kid. Well, you see that several times where someone gets knocked off who they want to play with because, like, if you play with, let's just say, if you're playing with a real creative, good player that gets points and you're on his line, you're probably gonna increase your point totals should so that you're excited about that. But what if, and I've seen guys be in that situation and they're there and they're there and they're there and you're not increasing your point totals, so then they get moved down obviously because someone else could probably do that job more effectively, and then they pout and they cry, and it's like, yeah, but you got to take responsibility. Sometimes you are what you are. And also, you have to understand your game. Like I've seen so many guys that maybe have a good year of goal scoring, or you see a guy that had some points, and all of a sudden they think they're goal scorers, or they think their point guys are number one line guys, and then it stagnates. It's like, oh, maybe you're just a really good checker that had a good year. Maybe you're a good all-around player that is just an all-around player. You're not the goal scorer you think you are, the point guy that you think you are. You see that a lot.
Well, we were just talking about a guy last week where it's like had all these goals and it's like, well, yeah, you're playing with this guy, and now as soon as that guy's not here, it's like maybe you're not what you
Yeah,
thought,
or it's a
right?
different way of
Yeah.
playing, right? Like, so anyways, yeah, like, but playing with guys on your team. So can guys on your team take away confidence and give confidence? Yeah, for sure. But like, you're not supposed to let people take your confidence. Like it's really your decision if you let that happen. But having said that, especially when you're younger, if you have someone that's like going back to junior again, if one of your best players on the team who's older than you is telling you, little things like, "Hey, easy, settle down. Okay, you're cocky. You're not whatever." They can say things that'll make you feel like you're not as good, and like it affects you because you're a kid. You're not necessarily mature enough to say, "Screw you," like shut up, because you want to fit in as well. Stuff. So that stuff is the thing I think makes the biggest difference. Of sometimes your performance is just like the little things that you wouldn't think would matter that much, because it's easy for a parent to say, "Well, just don't listen to that shit." Well, that's fine to say, but you got to go in that dressing room with this person who is maybe a dick or maybe not, whatever it is, right?
Mhm. Well, I remember my second year when I was playing university. My third year, I was like kind of starting to mail it in because I knew I probably wasn't going to play again next year, and I was hurt and like all this kind of shit. But my second year was the only year I ever played where I genuinely and I can honestly say that I wasn't preoccupied with trying to get points. And I think that is such a cancer to have in your brain, man. Like, and it's so hard to not have that. Like, how much if you can accept that it isn't always about points all the time. So if you, for example, let's say you're one of the best guys on your team and your coach, because this happens, like I've done this coaching where I put one of my best players with two weaker players, or my best D with my worst D, because you're trying to balance out the lineup. And that best player is like, man, like, okay, now I'm not going to get as many goals. I'm not going to get as many points. We're not going to get as many chances. It's not going to be as fun to play, whatever. As opposed to understanding, which I've had to explain this to guys, like you're there so that for the team, this line is stronger. Your job is to make this line stronger. I don't care about your points 5-on-5, and you shouldn't either. But it's so hard to get that out of your mindset. So I remember this vividly, like all through junior, my first year playing at the university, even though I got scratched all the time, I was still like, I want to get in to get some points. Like that's what I want to do. And it wasn't until that second year where I finally had the click of maturity. I'm 21 now, right? I finally had it at 21 because no one really ever explained it to me in a way that made it click that I actually do not care at all if I get 1 point at all. That was the only time that's ever happened. And it was so much easier to play. It was just so much easier to play. It's like, okay, if I'm put in an offensive situation where my job is to get a point, now I care about points. If I'm put in a defensive situation or a PK or a third, fourth line situation, it's like I can't be focused on that. Like that can't be what I'm focused on because you're at such a disadvantage, right? If you play third or fourth line minutes as opposed to first or second line minutes, you're at such a disadvantage in terms of offensive opportunities because like you're not getting as many minutes and you're not going to be put in the offensive situations like offensive zone faceoffs, power play situations likely. Like you're probably not going to get that opportunity. And having the maturity to like have that click because that is what I think to your point, especially when you're talking about who you're playing with on your team, that will destroy you if all you're thinking about is, well, I'm not playing with this guy. And like, and kids say it all the time, like, I should be here. I'm a point guy, right? I'm a point guy. I'm a point guy. And if you can get that out of your mindset when you're not supposed to have it, it would be really beneficial. But I don't know what that takes to get kids to realize that because I've met very few, maybe a couple, a handful, where in junior they get it. Like they start to be okay with the fact that I'm not getting points, you know? Because I don't know if you would find this in the OHL from even when you were coaching lines one to, or maybe if you see this, I don't know how many third, fourth line guys where it's like they're not an offensive guy, but they're focused on like how am I going to get more points?
Listen, I don't care who you are. You want to get points. Like it doesn't matter. Like no one wants to see the end of the year after 68 games or 60 games 1 goal and 4 assists. People say no, you don't worry about points, you don't worry about numbers, but you do, like you do, because at the end of the year, if you had 19 goals and 12 assists, is a lot
That's
more
better.
impressive, right? It
Yeah,
looks
it's
like you
better.
did something, but
Yeah.
it's it's almost impossible to have kids not worry about points. I mean, there's a defenseman on Charlie's team who's just a um, tough, strong, defensive minded. That's what he does, right? He may never score a goal in the OHL, and he probably knows that, and he doesn't expect to. But if he scores, he's going to be pumped, and you don't want another one. Everyone wants points, but the thing is that what the points do come when when you like, it's the process, not the outcome. Really, really and truly, right? So if you do things the right way, like there's guys that get points that can't play, right? Like they're not quality players, even though they get points because they don't do a full game of hockey, right? They're only looking at one side. They get weeded out, or they end up being on a power play in the NHL because that's what they do. But it's the process is number one. That's number one. If you get a goal because you, let's say you got it out of your own end as a winger, you chipped it off the wall, and then you drove the net and got, right, you drove the net really hard and you got a rebound or you got a pass in the honey hole because you were working hard for it. Then it's a goal that's very, very well deserved, right? Because you did something really well in your own zone, right? Or if you're coming on a back check and you knock a puck loose, or and then you belly up the right way and a puck comes back to you and you get it, chip it in, and you start an offensive play from that. It's like, okay, that you're contributing in a lot of different ways. You might not be the one that touches the puck to have it go in the net, but you're doing the thing to create offense, or to be good defensively, and it's the process. Did you score because you got lucky because you're shooting from the outside and you have a good shot for now, and then you get to play older guys, and then all of a sudden the goalies and the defending's better and that's gone? Or did you get your goals because you're always getting your nose in the dirty area, right? You might have less beauty goals, but you got goals that are actually going to translate into hockey. And that's the difference. It's the process. It's how you get them. It's how you play the whole game. And you know you, but the bottom line is, okay, so here's a funny thing, right? Like the average person or the media or whatever, they don't look necessarily at that as much. Like if you look at the 3-star selections in games, it's like someone could have um, a fight, 3 hits, 1 assist, and 1 goal, and then someone also have 3 goals and did nothing, and they get first star. It's like because that's what they feel hockey players are, is about points. But your coach standing on the bench is the one that will look down the bench and go, okay, like this is who I have to play and why. And the average person doesn't understand it. And I'm not being a jerk on the average person. It's just like you really don't understand the intricacies of the game. And like sometimes you can think an offensive player is really good, but it's like how many plays do they make that are just high risk that end up in the back of your net, right?
Man,
So
that's an interesting spot to be in now too. Is like behind the bench. As soon as you said that, I was thinking about how many times I do that. Like I'm looking up and down the bench, and how valuable it is to have played, being in that situation, to know what you're doing to the individuals when you pick one and not the other. And like, there's some guys where I'm just like, I cannot put you on the ice right now for whatever reason. But like, I know how that's gonna make you feel, so I'm gonna try to find a way to even it out or get you back out to feel good about yourself at some point later on. And that's why there's always that element we talk about with coaching, not really related to what we're talking about today, but like if you have played, it's so valuable. If you've played at some kind of high level where those things start to be variables, where you know what you're doing to the individual, where like you pass over them for the 4th time in a row, and like how that feels being the player. It's like it's so valuable. Last one, and then we can wrap it up because it's freaking Christmas, man. Like
true,
we shouldn't even be here.
true, yeah, that's right,
Um,
that's right.
how the guys you play against can affect your confidence. So like I guess my 3 new ones, for because we've talked about confidence before, like past episodes, but today it's more about like how coaches affect confidence, how your teammates can affect your confidence, and then how the guys you play against can affect your confidence. So this one's more brief, and I'm just more pointing it out than giving a prescription or anything. So you take a guy like, I remember we talked about Chuge's first year with Arbor on on Kitchener, and we were talking about, like, we were doing the thought experiment of, like, you dump a puck into that guy's corner and how different that you're doing the same job. Like, I'm dumping a puck and I have to go and get it on that guy, or I have to go get it on, you know, Jimmy on the other team that is irrelevant, and how that actually affects your ability to go and do the job you need to do. Whereas, you know, if it's not him, if it's somebody else, you'll go in this way. But because it's him, like, in an instant, that just changes what you feel about what you're going to do and your action step and how you play. Like, it could totally change how you want to go and play this game just because of the guy that you have to go against in the corner, which is my last one.
Yeah, 100%. Like, some guys will be totally intimidated playing against like a high scoring guy because they can dangle and stuff, and maybe you're just my skate. Like, it's in your head, right? If you just know that they're highly skilled and maybe their boots are better than your boots, and it can make you look silly, that can get in your head. That's one way. Another way would be, I think, is probably the more common way, is when you're playing against someone that is just an animal. Someone that's like, you know, it's a hard shift every shift. You know that you're going to get bumped, or you're going to get bumped hard, or you're going to get hit dirty, you're going to get hit heavy. They're bigger, like whatever it is, they're mean, whatever, and you know that it doesn't go away in a game. That's what I love about hockey, is that then you see who the hockey players are. You see the guys that, you know, even though there's a couple kids, I'll give this kid in Windsor some credit, and there's more than that, but I'm just thinking because there's a recent game that they played. It is Cole Davis. He's smaller, but I mean, the guy continues to go into the battles at one, like, competes, and he's always going to be, not always, but most of the time, he's the smallest guy in the battle, and he never stops. That's a hard guy to play against. And so his mindset, he's got confidence, and maybe he's got a chip on his shoulder, or maybe he's just built that way that he's going to battle. But that's an impressive kid, you know. Whereas you might get some big guys that you can't, like, why don't you push the guys around? You'd own the ice.
Isn't the psychology of that so interesting?
Yeah, it is.
Like,
it is.
I find that so. Last week, remember we talked about music, how, like, you listen to the right song at the right time and it just, like, boom, in an instant totally changes what you're thinking. It's the same kind of thing. It's like you could be the best guy in your team when you play a crappy team, let's say, and then the next day you go and play a good team, and all of a sudden, like, you're invisible. And, like, you're not even playing the same kind of game anymore. And, like, the psychology of that for me is so interesting, how fast that can just change your ability to do it. And then you get a guy like you're talking about, like this Davis kid. I haven't watched him enough to have an opinion, but if that's how he is as a smaller guy, or when we talked to Ryan here that was from Florida, he was saying that at Cornell, like his first year at Cornell, he led the team in hits, and he's like 5'7", right? And he was like, I wanted to make sure people didn't have that as a knock against me, that I was not willing to go in there and do that. And this guy went and played in the NHL, 5'7", right? And that would have been in the early mid 2000s, I think he was saying. Because he said one of his first games was, like, I think 2000, almost just before 2010 or something like that, right? More physical game than today, arguably, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely a guy on another team can shake your confidence a little bit, because, like, if you know you're, like, if you know you're going in there, you don't, you know, it's going to be, some guys are just not as brave. So if you go into a corner, like with Arbor Jack or whatever, when he played junior, it was like, okay, it's a decision. And I remember I told you that before. My first few games in the OHL, we were playing the Windsor Spitfires at home, and had these big D, and I was coming in smaller forward. And I'm like, you know, it's slow motion comes in. It's like, okay, here's my only option right now, is to chip it by him and go get it. I'm going to have to take a hit, like slow motion though.
Or even
are you willing to do it? And you did it. You take one, or you squeeze, and then you do it a few times, and you go. That's how you build the confidence. So it's just, okay, I can do this. Like, you do it once or twice with maybe a little bit of doubt, but you do it, and then you say, okay, that's not that bad.
It's cool how it could be like a confidence is like a long-term thing and a short-term thing. You know, it's like you can have habits that make you confident broadly over time, but then it's like you were saying last week too. We were sitting watching the game. You're like, oh, like as soon as somebody gets a point, all of a sudden they got more zip, just like that. Right? Just like that. It's like how, even in the short term, like little things can happen in the game. You have one good shift where you buzzed around, or you almost scored or something. It's like all of a sudden you have a little more life, like right away. The psychology, that's so interesting, man. It's cool. So, okay. That's all I got.
All righty.
Anything else?
Nope. I'm good, man.
No. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Bye.